in the 21st century. Hard-working people working hard for you and me. Moving higher, time and time again. Through the years you'll find us here. Moving higher.
Hello and welcome to Moving Iron Markets with Chip Nellinger. This edition of the Moving Iron podcast is brought to you by Dawson Tire and Wheel, the premier ag tire and wheel provider in North America, helping people grow. Chip, how you doing, bud?
Doing well, Casey. I'm down in Louisville, Kentucky at the not at the farm machinery show right now, but went there yesterday and going to go tomorrow. So
yeah, I was down there this week as well, and it's been a while since I've been to that show. It's probably been, I bet it's been 10 years since I've been to that show, but it was equally as full as it was 10 years ago. So there was plenty of stuff to look at while I was there.
That is for sure. They pack it in there.
They do.
I left Wednesday. I'm trying to get this right. Wednesday about noon out of Peoria because we were going to get some snow. So I wanted to get out of there ahead of big snow. I think we got 5-6 inches of snow at home. And I basically, about the Illinois-Indiana border, it kind of turned from snow to rain. And I'm telling you, all the way for 4 hours straight, I drove through rain. And I don't like heavy rain. And, I don't want to be that guy about the wet spring, but I'm telling you over this way, it's wet.
Yeah.
There's water everywhere. All the rivers are out. It's good, right? If it straightens out, we're going to have tons of subsoil moisture there for a long time, but
yeah.
And it's got the makings of a potentially, wet spring, and no one wants that after what we went through last spring.
Yep. No, yeah, there's I've read lots of reports about this kind of wetness we see here, and then all of a sudden it kind of shuts off, and we're going to have a below average amount of moisture and a hot, dry summer type of thing. So we'll see. La Nina, I think is what they're calling for now instead of El Nino. So I guess that's the opposite. I'm not a weather guy, but I can tell you I did sleep at a Holiday Inn Express, so keeping it real.
I'm not a weather guy either, but I know I just drove through.
It did rain. It did rain.
Rainfall.
Yeah, I was in Louisville from Monday. It was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Flew out Wednesday afternoon. It rained on me the whole time I was there. So yeah, there was no lack of moisture in the air. That's for darn sure. That is for darn sure. Well, speaking of large crowds, it looks like the coronavirus is throwing its evil head around still, and there's plenty of talk in the air that this coronavirus thing, because today is supposed to be the official day of the Phase 1 China deal is supposed to take place starting today, correct? Am I right about that?
Actually, I think it's like midnight. I think it's tomorrow.
Midnight tomorrow, okay.
Midnight tonight or something.
Gotcha. So
I should say midnight on the 15th.
Gotcha. Okay, so there is plenty of talk in the air that this coronavirus is going to not necessarily derail, but delay any purchases China was supposed to have made here on this first round opening day of Phase 1, and also looks like the big trade deal that Trump is working with China. Also, the coronavirus is going to have some stuff with that. So there's plenty of stuff going on with that coronavirus. The market's kind of opened up a little shaky today. They were shaky yesterday. I don't suspect that they're going to be less shaky moving throughout the day, depending on what happens with this first round of buying. So, I guess what's your thought on that, and where do you see? I guess what are your thoughts on the overall kind of this hinge point we're seeing right now?
Yeah, I think that to kind of throw another wrinkle into that, we've got a long weekend here. There's no markets Monday for President's Day. You have that long weekend. Are we going to get any news headlines on the coronavirus? Are we going to walk in, over the weekend or Monday, Tuesday, and China starts buying? I think there's a lot of hope that they do start buying, but it's kind of up in the air. So we could have some really volatile markets going forward here, more volatile than they have been. I think if they do show any signs of actual buying, no matter what it is, it's going to give us a nice lift in all our ag markets, the grains and the livestock markets. We get into, the end of next week and the beginning of the week following, and we haven't seen any signs of any Chinese buying. I think that's going to be a big disappointment to the market. And so, I think we're coming into kind of a critical time frame here where the market psychology really wants to see them buy soon, maybe as soon as next week. And the longer it goes without those purchases, I think the worse it will be for the market. You've got, Brazil is a big headwind right now. They're, into harvest, and it looks like it's a record crop, maybe by a big amount.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of given us a little bit of a headwind here. And obviously this coronavirus thing is a big unknown on what that's going to do to Chinese growth and then world growth. And, I think everyone, not to be all conspiracy theorists, I think everyone in the world outside of China is holding their breath a little bit, wondering, how much of the real story are we getting out of there? You lock down 400 million people, there's some bad things going on, or at least the fear of a real bad situation. And are we getting all that information, and how much of an effect is that going to have on world growth? And so those are all unknowns we're just going to have to wait and see on.
Yep. Tons of stuff out there that just going crazy. Looks like the French have come out with a report showing that their soft red winter wheat crop is a little bit less quality than what they thought at start of the year, going into winter this year. So I guess you should see some moves in wheat, which I think we've been seeing that. We've been watching the wheat market kind of have a slow but steady rise, and I think this could give that boost, especially what's going on here. And talk of coronavirus over in Russia and Ukraine and everywhere else, and then what's going on in Australia as far as drought and everything else out there. So the wheat market should be in pretty good shape as far as to show some pretty steady climbs and going into the spring.
Yeah, the wheat market's been quietly the leader here, honestly, and a little bit of a head scratcher, like you mentioned. There's nothing major that you can put your finger on, but little things. Australia's had their problems with drought. There's a lot of questions on the Russian size of the Russian crop, and they've given some conflicting, reports of how much they have and how much they're going to sell. And then the European crop. And the bottom line is I guess the bellwether is the world cash markets, and they just continue to slowly creep up. That tells you all you need to know about supplies of wheat. And it does look like the world demand has been pretty good as well. And, bits and pieces of that have come from the United States. We haven't just been stellar export sales on the wheat, but they've been solid at times. And so we've had a nice run into wheat. The fearful thing about wheat is the funds are long. I don't estimate probably 40,000 contracts, a little more. It's starting to get to be a pretty healthy long position. And so you got to be, and we've seen some, I guess, cracks in the armor maybe on the chart where, we're 30 plus cents off the highs and it broke a trend line and, violated some previous lows. So you're seeing maybe some warning signs of a potential top. But, in the environment you're in with the potential for Chinese demand out of this phase one trade deal, you're going to probably keep a little bit of a floor underneath of it until you sift out, if China's going to buy and then what they're going to buy, because wheat has been rumored to be towards the top of that list of things that they are going to actually need, sooner rather than later. So wheat could be a big benefactor of this phase one trade deal, and you've got some bullish fundamentals, and it's certainly been the shining star of the grain markets here over the last several months. Yeah.
Yep, that is definitely the truth. So looking at the hog market, it's been bouncing around all over the place. We had limit up, and then we've had some sell-off since then. But right now it looks like pork has been kind of back and forth this week. So talk about the hog market, what you see happening there.
Yeah, well, the hog market is just critically needs Chinese demand.
Yeah.
The problem is we're oversupplied, and in a big way, not in a little way. We just have produced ourselves into a corner domestically. And the cash market just can't seem to catch a bid. It's just like a couple days ago, it's kind of stabilized, but earlier in the week, it just took another big drop on cash prices. So we desperately need that Chinese demand. The crazy thing is about, Thursday mornings, we get the export sales reports. And in years past, nobody, cared about the beef or pork sales. They just were what they were. And, 12,000 tons, 15,000 tons, that'd be an okay week. Well, in the hogs, we've been selling, 28 to 38,000 tons a week. I mean, pretty good numbers. And China's there almost every week in a small amount. So they are buying. They have been buying. That's the friendly thing about this. But it's not a big enough earth-shattering number that the market needs to see to shake us out of this range that we've been in. So we're down near the lows and everything. We've tried to rally. The market desperately needs to see some bigger Chinese purchases as part of this phase one trade deal. And with all the problems they've had with the, African swine flu, pork is at the top of the list of what they're going to buy if they're going to start buying stuff.
Yeah.
But the market just needs to see the confirmation, and then I think you can have a nice rally. But man, we've backed ourselves into a corner of production. It just seems like for 4 or 5 years running, we're growing the hog herd by 2-3% a year, and we're really seeing the effects of that. We just can't see prices sustain any type of a rally.
Yep. So the cattle market is another one there, and there's an article here I'm looking at Pro Farmer, and they're talking about cattle futures are still looking for a low. They have been kind of all over the board, back and forth, up one day, down the next, and everything in between. So I guess what's the big deal there, and how's that market shaking out?
Yeah, my fingers are crossed that we may have found a temporary low yesterday, actually 2 days ago. If we can close the week strong, I think that maybe the worst will be behind us. So, I think that just got caught up in the typical, scare about is the world growth slowing with this coronavirus thing. And, a lot of outside financial markets have taken a hit. And we probably got a little too far ahead of ourselves, trading just shy of 130 at the highs in April cattle here a few weeks ago. The funds were loaded up long. They've liquidated a lot of that. And so we're in a better position now in the cattle market to maybe put a rally in. And, I like the way the market's acting, especially if we can close strong today to end the week. I think that maybe the worst is behind us in cattle, and seasonally, for a little period here, maybe going into March, April, we typically see stronger cattle prices and stronger boxed beef. And so hopefully we can see that. And, again, like all these other markets, hopeful of maybe beef is going to be part of this Chinese trade deal if and when they start buying. So there's a little bit of optimism there that demand could be good on the beef side as well.
Yep. Yeah. So, kind of to your point earlier on the hogs and the beef, beef would be also falling into this as well. But China just keeps releasing more and more of their strategic reserves out of the frozen pork they have in country there that they have just kind of set back for a rainy day. And as soon as they can, you got to think they're going to start hammering the proteins and getting that stuff so they can start replenishing some of the stuff just because of the way pork prices have gotten in China right now. So you got to think that's going to be the first thing they just start buying as much as they can, as fast as they can. Yeah,
and that could happen soon. That is something they desperately need, obviously, just looking at their internal prices, like you mentioned. And that'll be a breath of fresh air. We get to next Thursday. Actually, it might be Friday. I'm not sure about the USDA offices. So our normal, because of the holiday, we might not get that export sales report until Friday morning. But that would be a breath of fresh air if you saw China in there. Typically, they've been, for a couple, 2 months straight, they take about, from 2,000 to 3,500, just shy of 4,000 tons a week. If you see them bump that up to a much bigger number next week, I think that will really light a fire under the hog market and give us a nice bounce. I'm not saying you're going to new all-time highs because we do have a lot of supply to get through, but be nice to see a big bump in demand there from China to maybe give us a nice bounce.
Right. Well, good stuff as usual, Chip. If folks want to reach out to you and start working on that plan or kind of have you check over a plan that they're working on, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, best way is just call our office, 309-550-7213. We'd love to chat with you and kind of give you our philosophy of what a marketing plan looks like and maybe give you a second set of eyes and ears on what you're doing with your own marketing plan and how you might be able to improve that.
Right on. Well, this is Casey Seymour with Moving Iron Podcast. Make sure you check me out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Moving Iron LLC. Also, hit me up on my website at movingironllc.com. Send me an email at movingironpodcast at movingironpodcast.com. And also check out the Global Ag Network for all the great podcasters that are out there as well. So for Chip Nellinger, I'm Casey Seymour. Let's go move some iron, folks. Out.
Moving higher in the 21st century.